Dermia Torres stood at the airlock of the research vessel Horizon. Her heart raced as she stared out at the icy expanse of Glacius. The planet loomed before her, a beautiful but treacherous world that promised both discovery and danger. She took a deep breath, reminding herself of the significance of this mission, the first step towards understanding the Deathworlders, a mysterious species that had thrived in such extreme conditions. With a hiss, the airlock opened, and a gust of frigid wind rushed in, biting at her exposed skin. The cold hit like a physical blow, and she shivered despite her thermal suit. She stepped out into the snow, her boots crunching against the powdery surface, and glanced back at her team, 5 brave souls who shared her ambition and apprehension together. They would face the challenges of this frozen world. As they set up their camp, Mia couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She turned her gaze to the horizon, where snowdrifts met the sky, and noticed dark shapes moving in the distance. They were coming closer, silhouettes against the bright white backdrop. The moment her team noticed, they froze, eyes wide with anticipation and fear. Emerging from the blizzard was a group of Deathworlders, their figures tall and imposing, each adorned in layers of furs and skin that seemed to blend seamlessly with their icy environment. They moved with a fluid grace that spoke of both confidence and power. A murmur of awe rippled through Mia's team as they took in the sight. One of the Deathworlders stepped forward, a broad-shouldered figure with piercing blue eyes and skin that shimmered like freshly fallen snow. He regarded the humans with a mix of curiosity and amusement. Mia stepped forward to introduce herself, but the moment she opened her mouth to speak, the Deathworlder let out a loud laugh that echoed across the frozen landscape. The sound was unexpected and jarring, cutting through the tension like a knife. The rest of the Deathworlders joined in the laughter, their voices rich and warm against the chill. Mia's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. She glanced back at her team, who were equally taken aback, but despite her initial discomfort, she couldn't help but feel a spark of intrigue. What was so funny? As the laughter subsided, the lead Deathworlder extended a hand toward Mia. His gesture was inviting, yet it held an undercurrent of challenge. She hesitated for a moment before accepting the gesture. He grinned, showing sharp teeth, and spoke in a deep, rumbling voice that seemed to resonate with the earth beneath them. "Welcome to Glacius, where the cold is merely a minor nuisance," he said, as if it were the most natural thing in the universe. The words hung in the air, challenging her understanding of the environment around her. They had come here to study these beings, yet already she felt out of her depth. How could anyone see such frigid temperatures as anything but a threat? As if sensing her confusion, the Deathworlder gestured to the others, who began to approach. The humans noticed that they moved with a relaxed ease despite the biting cold. It was as if they were born to this world, while the humans were intruders, ill-equipped to handle the elements. With a sudden spark of determination, Mia decided to embrace the challenge she had come here for. She turned to her team, rallying them with a newfound resolve. "Let's learn from them," she said, her voice steady despite the chill. "Let's discover what makes them thrive in this world." Her team nodded, exchanging glances of determination and excitement together. They stepped forward, ready to face whatever the Deathworlders had in store for them, unaware of the trials and bonds that lay ahead. As Mia and her team approached the Deathworlders, the lead figure introduced himself with a flourish. "I am Carrick, the Frostborn," he said, his voice booming with a mixture of pride and amusement. "You are brave to venture into our domain." Mia felt a rush of warmth at his greeting despite the freezing air around them. She returned his smile. "We're here to learn from you and understand how you thrive in such extreme conditions," she replied, her confidence growing with every word. Carrick's eyes sparkled with mischief. "Learning is good, but action is better," he declared, gesturing for his companions to gather around. "We shall show you the true nature of Glacius." Intrigued and slightly apprehensive, the humans exchanged glances before Mia nodded in agreement. She was ready for the challenge, whatever it might be. Without hesitation, Carrick led them away from the safety of their camp, towards the heart of a frozen forest. The trees loomed tall and imposing, their branches heavy with frost. As they walked, Carrick explained the importance of adapting to their environment. "Here the cold is not an enemy, but a teacher, he said. Every creature, every plant has a lesson to share. The team listened intently as they navigated the snow-covered terrain. Mia noted the way Carrick moved effortlessly through the snow, as if he were part of the landscape. The humans struggled to keep pace, stumbling over hidden obstacles and gasping at the biting wind that cut through their thermal gear. They soon arrived at a clearing where Carrick stopped and turned to face them. "Now we shall play a game of survival," he announced with a grin. "You will need to use your wits, strength, and teamwork to succeed." Mia's heart raced at the thought of a game with such high stakes. Carrick quickly explained the rules. The humans would be split into teams with the Deathworlders as their guides. Each team would compete to gather resources, build a shelter, and find food within the forest. "Are you ready to embrace the cold as a minor nuisance?" Carrick challenged, his eyes gleaming. Mia exchanged determined glances with her team. "Absolutely," she replied, her voice steady. The competition began with the humans and Deathworlders racing through the snow. Each group moved with urgency, gathering branches for shelter and searching for edible plants or small animals. Mia felt exhilaration coursing through her veins as she pushed herself harder than ever before. But soon they realized that the cold was more than just a nuisance. The wind howled around them, visibility dropped, and snow began to fall heavily, obscuring their path. One of her team members, Sam, slipped and fell into a snowbank, letting out a yelp of surprise. "Keep moving," Carrick called out, his voice cutting through the storm. "Focus on what you can control." Mia took a deep breath, reminding herself of Carrick's words. She rallied her team, pulling them together to strategize. Despite the conditions, they worked in unison, gathering branches and stacking them into a makeshift shelter. The Deathworlders moved alongside them, offering tips and encouragement. As the storm intensified, Mia noticed how Carrick and his companions thrived in the chaos, their laughter ringing out as they navigated the elements with ease. They seemed to embrace the snowstorm as an opportunity rather than a hindrance. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they managed to construct a shelter just as the storm reached its peak. As they huddled inside, shivering but victorious, Mia realized something profound. They had come to Glacius to study the Deathworlders, but perhaps it was they who would teach the humans the most important lessons about survival, resilience, and perspective. Inside the makeshift shelter, the storm raged outside, snow piling against the walls as the wind howled like a wild beast. Mia and her team huddled together, their breath forming small clouds in the frigid air. The temperature plummeted, but there was a warmth in their camaraderie. Carrick and the other Deathworlders moved about the cramped space, gathering supplies and sharing stories. "Your shelter is impressive," Carrick said with a nod, his blue eyes sparkling with approval. "But it will not last long against the storm. We must learn to adapt quickly." Mia felt a surge of determination. "What do we need to do?" she asked, eager to prove that humans could thrive in this environment as well. Carrick grinned, revealing those sharp teeth once again. "We will teach you to harness the power of the cold. It is not merely an obstacle, it is a tool." With that, the Deathworlders began to explain their techniques for insulating their shelters and collecting heat from their surroundings. They demonstrated how to create barriers using snow, which, when packed correctly, could retain heat better than any material the humans had brought. Mia watched intently, taking mental notes, absorbing every detail. "Why don't you see the cold as a threat?" Sam interjected, his voice strained with curiosity. "How can you be so carefree?" Carrick paused, tilting his head as if considering the question carefully. "We see the cold as a challenge, not a barrier," he replied slowly. "Every gust of wind, every flake of snow, is a reminder of our strength. Our ancestors battled against this world, and they emerged stronger. It is our duty to honor their legacy by embracing what they overcame." The humans exchanged glances, some still struggling to comprehend this mindset. Meanwhile, Carrick continued, "In the heart of adversity lies opportunity. It is how we survive." As the storm howled outside, the team worked together to reinforce their shelter using Carrick's advice. The Deathworlders moved effortlessly, shaping the snow and weaving branches, while the humans followed suit, slowly starting to adapt to the rhythm of their new environment. Maya felt a shift within herself as she began to embrace the cold rather than resent it. After hours of hard work, the shelter was finally complete. Mia stepped back and admired their creation. It stood strong against the storm, a testament to their collaboration and newfound understanding. As they settled in for the night, the warmth of shared stories and laughter filled the space. Just as Mia began to drift into a peaceful sleep, she was jolted awake by a loud thud outside. The group's collective instincts kicked in, and they scrambled to their feet. Carrick's expression shifted to one of alertness. "Stay close," he commanded, his voice low. The storm obscured visibility, but a low growl reverberated through the air, sending shivers down Mia's spine. Something was out there, lurking in the snow. As her heart raced, she felt the weight of their situation pressing down on her. They were vulnerable, exposed in a world that had already proven itself to be unforgiving. "What is it?" one of her team members whispered, fear evident in their voice. "Stay silent," Carrick replied, scanning the surroundings, his body tense like a coiled spring. Suddenly, a massive shape moved through the snow, the outline of a creature emerging from the blizzard. Its eyes glowed like embers in the dark, and a low rumble emanated from deep within its chest. Maya's mind raced. What had they stumbled into? What was this creature, and how would they survive? In that moment, she realized the Deathworlders' philosophy of embracing challenges had never felt more relevant. They had to face this together, united, or risk being lost to the frozen abyss outside. "Stay together," Mia whispered to her team as Carrick prepared to defend them. They would face this threat not as individuals, but as a united front ready to adapt and survive. The creature lurked just beyond the reach of their shelter, its massive form partially obscured by swirling snow. Mia's heart raced as she strained to make sense of the ominous silhouette. Carrick's eyes narrowed, and he crouched low, his body coiled like a spring, ready to pounce. The tension in the air was palpable, a thick silence settling over the group as they held their breath, waiting for the inevitable confrontation. "What is it?" San whispered again, fear lacing his voice. "A frost giant," Carrick replied, his tone steady despite the tremor of urgency. "They roam these lands, seeking food or prey. They are not inherently evil, but very dangerous, especially when threatened." Mia swallowed hard, her instincts screaming at her to run, but she stood firm. "What do we do?" she asked, desperation creeping into her voice. "We must assert our presence," Carrick said. "A show of strength may deter it. We cannot show fear." The creature took a step closer, its massive paws sinking into the snow with a heavy thud. Mia caught a glimpse of its glowing eyes, fierce and predatory. The frost giant let out a deep, rumbling growl that reverberated through the shelter, causing the humans to flinch. "Grab whatever you can find," Carrick instructed, his voice low but commanding. "We will not attack, but defend ourselves. Show that we are not easy prey." Mia looked around, her eyes landing on the few items they had managed to bring from the ship: tools, equipment, and even some makeshift weapons they had crafted during their time on Glacius. She quickly grabbed a sturdy metal rod, passing similar items to her team members. They lined up behind Carrick, ready to face whatever came next. As the frost giant moved closer, it raised its enormous head, sniffing the air, its gaze locked onto the shelter. Carrick took a step forward, raising the rod as a challenge. "We will not be your food," he shouted, his voice echoing defiantly through the storm. Mia felt a rush of adrenaline as she stood shoulder to shoulder with Carrick and her team. The frost giant paused, its eyes narrowing as it regarded the group with a mixture of curiosity and annoyance. The atmosphere crackled with tension, but Maya refused to back down. "Stay strong," she murmured to her team, her heart pounding in her chest. Suddenly, the frost giant lunged forward, crashing into the shelter with a powerful swipe of its massive paw. The structure trembled under the impact, snow cascading down as Carrick and the humans braced themselves. The creature's growl turned into a roar, echoing through the icy expanse, shaking the very ground beneath them. "Defend yourselves," Carrick bellowed, and the humans sprang into action. They swung their makeshift weapons at the creature, not with the intent to harm, but to intimidate, to show they were not easy targets. The frost giant recoiled, its glowing eyes flashing with surprise. In that moment of hesitation, Mia saw an opening. "Karak, we need to work together," she shouted, rallying her team. "Use your skills." Karak nodded, quickly shouting commands in the Deathworlder tongue, instructing his companions to flank the creature while the humans provided a distraction. The Deathworlders moved with fluidity and grace, darting around the frost giant, throwing snow and shouting to confuse it. Mia joined in, using her rod to make loud clanging noises, trying to draw the giant's attention away from her allies. The frost giant swatted at her, but she danced out of reach, adrenaline fueling her movements. As the chaos unfolded, the humans found themselves fighting not just for survival, but for the respect of their Deathworlder companions. They were learning to embrace the cold, to accept the danger as part of the experience. With a final surge of teamwork, the Deathworlders and humans coordinated their movements, forcing the frost giant to retreat. It roared in frustration before bounding away into the swirling snow, its silhouette disappearing into the storm. Panting heavily, the group collapsed into a pile of laughter and relief. They had faced the beast together, united as one. "Did we just chase off a frost giant?" Sam gasped between breaths, disbelief coloring his tone. Karak slapped him on the back, a grin spreading across his face. "Indeed you did. You are more resilient than you believe." Mia felt a swell of pride rising within her as she realized they were starting to understand what it meant to adapt to this harsh environment. Together they had transformed fear into strength and learned that even in the depths of winter unity could forge bonds that were stronger than any ice. As the echoes of their laughter faded into the swirling snow, Mia took a moment to catch her breath. The adrenaline from their encounter with the frost giant still coursed through her veins, making her heart race. She exchanged glances with her team, their faces flushed with exhilaration and disbelief. They had faced a formidable creature and emerged victorious, but the victory was sweeter because they had done it together. Karak stepped forward, his expression a mix of pride and respect. "You have shown great courage and adaptability," he said, his voice steady. "This is the spirit of Glacius. You are beginning to understand." Mia smiled, feeling a newfound sense of connection to Karak and the other Deathworlders. "Thank you for believing in us," she replied, her voice genuine. "We couldn't have done it without your guidance." "Now you must learn to appreciate the cold," Karak continued, gesturing to the world outside. "It is not just a barrier, it is a teacher. Every challenge you face here will make you stronger." Feeling emboldened, Maya looked around at the vast, snow-covered landscape. The storm had subsided, and the moonlight began to pierce through the clouds, casting a silvery glow over the world. It was breathtaking, almost ethereal, and for the first time, she saw the beauty in the harshness of Glacius. "Let's continue our training," Karak suggested, his enthusiasm infectious. "Tomorrow we will forage and gather food. You will learn how to survive in this environment, not just endure it." The humans exchanged excited glances, the prospect of learning more invigorating them. They spent the rest of the night sharing stories and strategizing, each member of the team feeling a sense of purpose as they settled into their new roles. As dawn broke the next day, they set out into the snowy wilderness. Karak led them deeper into the forest, explaining how to read the signs of the environment. "Look for animal tracks," he instructed, pointing to faint impressions in the snow. "Each mark tells a story. Follow them, and you may find food." Mia crouched beside the tracks, her earlier hesitations fading. She felt a surge of excitement as she traced the patterns with her gloved fingers. "What do these tracks mean?" she asked eagerly. Karak smiled. "These are the tracks of a snow hare. They are quick and elusive, but their meat is rich in nutrients. If we can find their burrow, we may catch one for our meal." With renewed determination, the group fanned out, carefully examining the terrain. Mia spotted another track leading away from the main path. "Over here," she called out, beckoning her team to follow. As they ventured further, they encountered more signs of life. An occasional chirp of birds hidden beneath layers of snow, the rustle of small creatures scurrying away. With Carrick's guidance, they practiced setting traps, crafting simple snares from branches and cord, all while the Deathworlders shared tales of past hunts and the lessons learned from failures. But as they worked together, the cold began to seep into Mia's bones again. She shivered despite her thermal gear, and her energy waned with each passing hour. Sensing her struggle, Carrick approached her, concern etched on his face. "You must not fight the cold, Mia. Embrace it. Find joy in the challenge." In that moment, she understood what he meant. The cold wasn't just a physical sensation. It was a part of Glacius that demanded respect and understanding. She took a deep breath, allowing the crisp air to fill her lungs, and focused on the beauty surrounding her, the shimmering snowflakes, the stark contrast of white against the dark trees, and the laughter of her team as they shared in the experience. With renewed energy, Maya laughed, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. "Let's find that snow hare," she declared, her voice ringing with determination. As they continued their search, Maya felt a sense of belonging grow within her. She was not just a visitor on this planet. She was becoming part of a larger story, a tale of resilience, cooperation, and survival. Together, they would thrive in this frozen world, forging bonds that would last far beyond their time on Glacius. As the sun began its slow descent in the sky, casting a golden hue over the snowy landscape, the group moved deeper into the forest, their senses heightened with excitement and anticipation. Mia could feel the cold beginning to bite again, but the warmth of camaraderie kept her spirits high. They had been working together for hours, honing their skills and sharing laughter. "Look there!" Carrick exclaimed suddenly, his keen eyes spotting movement among the snow-covered underbrush. The team froze, hearts racing. Maya followed his gaze to see a snow hare darting between the trees, its white fur blending seamlessly with the landscape. "Now we must be quiet," Carrick instructed, lowering his voice to a whisper. "We are hunters, not intruders. Move slowly." Maya felt her heart race as they crouched down, inching closer to the creature. She could see the hare's long ears perked up, alert to any disturbance in the quiet. It paused for a moment, sniffing the air. The tension was palpable as the group collectively held their breath, aware that one wrong move could send the hare bounding away into the safety of the forest. "Sam, you and Mita create a distraction," Carrick whispered, his eyes focused on the hare. "The rest of us will set the trap." Mia nodded, her adrenaline surging as she glanced at Sam, who was equally eager to prove himself. They moved to the side, making small noises, rustling branches and shuffling in the snow, attempting to draw the hare's attention away from the others. As planned, the hare turned its head, intrigued by the sounds. Carrick and the other Deathworlders moved swiftly, laying down the snares they had crafted from branches and cords. Mia's heart pounded in her chest, the thrill of the hunt coursing through her veins. She couldn't help but admire how seamlessly Carrick and the others worked together, their movements fluid and practiced. With a final flourish, Carrick signaled for Sam and Mia to return to their side. They joined the others, watching with bated breath as the hare cautiously approached the traps, drawn in by the distractions. The moment was electric. "Now, Carrick," whispered as the hare hesitated near the first trap, sensing the danger but unable to resist the temptation of an easy meal. Suddenly, with a quick flick of its ears, it darted forward, triggering one of the snares. The trap sprang, and in an instant, the hare was caught. The group erupted in cheers, the sound echoing through the woods. Maya felt an exhilarating rush of triumph as they quickly moved to secure the hare, a testament to their teamwork and learning. It was a beautiful creature, and even in that moment, Mia felt a pang of respect for the life they had taken. "This is a part of survival," Carrick said, sensing her thoughts. "We honor the creatures that sustain us. They teach us the value of life." As they prepared the hare for their meal, Carrick shared stories of his people's hunting traditions, weaving tales of respect and gratitude toward the land and its creatures. The humans listened intently, feeling a deeper connection to the world around them. That evening, they returned to their shelter, a fresh fire crackling and popping in the center as they cooked their hard-earned meal. The warmth enveloped them, and the scent of roasting hare filled the air, a savory reward for their efforts. Mia watched as Carrick and the other Deathworlders shared in the meal with her team, their laughter and stories mingling around the fire. They spoke of past hunts, of family, and of the harsh beauty of Glacius. With every bite, Mia savored not just the food but the unity they had forged. As the night deepened and the stars glittered against the inky sky, Maya felt a sense of peace wash over her. They were no longer just a group of scientists and explorers. They were a community bound by shared experiences and newfound respect for each other and the challenges they faced together. The cold outside was no longer a foe but a backdrop to their journey of growth and understanding. With every challenge they overcame, they had embraced the essence of Glacius, transforming what was once seen as a threat into an integral part of their story. Mia smiled to herself, realizing they were now part of something greater, a legacy of resilience that would echo long after they left this frozen world. As dawn broke over the snowy expanse of Glacius, the world outside was transformed. A thick layer of frost glittered in the early light, and the air was crisp and invigorating. Mia awoke to the sound of laughter filtering through the shelter, a joyful melody that contrasted sharply with the harshness of the landscape outside. She rubbed her eyes, still feeling the warmth of last night's fire in her bones. The scent of roasted hare lingered in the air, a reminder of their hard-won victory and the bonds they had forged. As she crawled out of her sleeping bag, she could see Carrick and some of the Deathworlders preparing a small breakfast from the remains of their meal. "Good morning, Mia," Carrick called, his voice booming with cheer. "Join us. Today, we venture further into the forest and learn about the plants that thrive here. The cold has its gifts if you know where to look." Mia smiled, excitement bubbling within her. "What kind of plants?" she asked, joining him by the makeshift fire. "Many have medicinal properties or can be used for food," Carrick explained. "Some can even be transformed into tools or weapons. We will teach you how to identify them and use them wisely." After a quick breakfast, they gathered their gear and prepared to set out. Carrick led the way, his movements confident as he navigated through the icy terrain. The humans followed closely, their senses heightened by the anticipation of what lay ahead. As they entered a denser part of the forest, Mia marveled at the beauty around her. Ice clung to the branches like crystals, and the sunlight filtered through, casting a magical glow over the snow. Carrick stopped suddenly, crouching down to examine the ground. "Here," he said, pointing to a cluster of small green shoots peeking through the snow. "This is glacial thyme. It has a strong flavor and can be used in cooking to enhance the taste of our meals. It also has healing properties." Mia knelt beside him, her heart racing at the prospect of learning about this new world. "What else should we look for?" she asked, eager to absorb as much knowledge as she could. Carrick smiled, his expression warm. "Look for the signs, the shapes of leaves, the textures of the bark. Nature will guide you if you pay attention." As they continued their trek, Mia and her team began to spot various plants, some with vibrant colors that contrasted sharply against the white snow. Carrick shared the names and uses of each one, weaving a tapestry of knowledge that painted the picture of survival on Glacius. Suddenly, Carrick stopped again, his demeanor shifting. "We must be cautious," he warned, his voice dropping to a whisper. "There are more than just plants in these woods. Sometimes the forest has its guardians." Mia's heart raced as she scanned the surroundings, the thrill of adventure coursing through her. "What do you mean?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. Carrick pointed to the ground, where large paw prints were embedded in the snow, unmistakably larger than those of the frost giant. "This is the track of a snowfang," he explained, his eyes serious. They are swift and cunning, and while they prefer to avoid confrontation, they will defend their territory fiercely. Mia's mind raced with images of the creature. What should we do? We will move quietly and keep our senses sharp, Carrick instructed, his voice calm yet commanding. Stay close together, and remember what you learned from the frost giant. We are hunters, not prey. As they continued, Maya felt the weight of the atmosphere shift. Every rustle in the snow, every snap of a twig heightened her awareness. She glanced at her team, seeing the determination etched on their faces. They were no longer just explorers. They had become participants in a dance with nature, learning to respect and navigate its dangers. Minutes turned into hours as they moved cautiously through the forest, gathering plants and identifying tracks. Mia was beginning to feel a connection not just to the land, but to her team as well. They shared stories, laughter, and the thrill of discovery, their bonds growing deeper with each passing moment. Suddenly, the silence was broken by a low growl reverberating through the trees. The sound was deep and menacing, causing every member of the group to freeze in place. Carrick's expression hardened, his instincts kicking in. "Prepare yourselves," he whispered, eyes scanning the shadows around them. The snowfang had found them. The tension in the air was palpable as the growl resonated through the trees, sending a chill down Mia's spine. She felt her pulse quicken, and adrenaline surged through her veins. The group huddled together, instincts kicking in as they prepared for whatever danger lurked in the shadows. Carrick remained calm, his eyes focused on the direction of the sound. "Stay close to me," he instructed, positioning himself at the front of the group. "Do not show fear. If it charges, we will stand our ground." Mia nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel the presence of the snowfang lurking just beyond their line of sight, an unseen predator in the icy wilderness. The air grew heavy with anticipation, and she dared to peek into the depths of the forest, hoping to catch a glimpse of the creature. Moments felt like hours, but finally, the snowfang emerged from the underbrush, a sleek, powerful form that glinted in the dappled sunlight. Its fur was a striking blend of icy blue and white, perfectly camouflaging it against the snow. The creature's eyes, sharp and intelligent, locked onto Mia's, assessing the potential threat before it. Carrick took a step forward, raising a hand to signal the group to remain still. "Do not move," he whispered. "It is watching us, trying to gauge our intentions." Mia's breath caught in her throat as the snowfang sniffed the air, its nostrils flaring. It was a magnificent creature, muscular and agile, a true embodiment of the wilderness surrounding them. And yet there was a sense of danger in its presence that made her heart race. Suddenly, the snowfang let out another growl, a warning sound that reverberated through the trees. Carrick lowered himself, his body language shifting to convey a non-threatening posture. "We mean no harm," he spoke softly, addressing the creature with a calmness that surprised Mia. To her astonishment, the snowfang's demeanor shifted slightly. It tilted its head, as if processing Carrick's words. The tension in the air eased, albeit slightly, as the creature seemed to reconsider its stance. "Now is our chance," Carrick murmured, glancing back at the team. "Stay quiet, but we must move slowly away from here. If we show we are not a threat, it may allow us to pass." With careful precision, Carrick led the way, the humans following closely behind. Every step felt like a test, a balance between respect for the creature and the instinct to escape. Mia dared to glance back, her heart pounding as she saw the snowfang still watching them, its eyes unyielding and fierce. As they moved further away, Carrick began to speak again, his voice low but steady. "We are fortunate today. The snowfang is a guardian of these woods, a creature that helps maintain the balance of the ecosystem. It does not hunt indiscriminately, and if it believes we are not a threat, it will allow us to pass." Mia nodded, still feeling the adrenaline coursing through her. "I can't believe we just faced a snowfang," she whispered to Sam, who stood beside her, wide-eyed with awe. "I thought we were done for," Sam replied, a nervous chuckle escaping his lips. But Carrick knew what to do. As they put distance between themselves and the creature, Mia began to reflect on the experience. They had learned so much during their time on Glacius: how to adapt, how to work as a team, and how to respect the wilderness. This encounter with the Snowfang was a testament to their growth, a reminder that survival here was about more than just brute strength. It was about understanding and cooperation. After what felt like hours, they'd finally reached a clearing, the trees parting to reveal a serene landscape. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the snow. Carrick turned to the group, his expression proud. "You have all shown remarkable bravery today," he said. "Facing a Snowfang is no small feat. You are beginning to understand the balance of this world." Mia felt a swell of pride within her. They had faced their fears and emerged stronger, not just as individuals, but as a cohesive unit. The lessons learned on Glacius were transforming them in ways they could not have anticipated. As they set up a new camp in the clearing, Maya looked around at her team, their expressions a mix of exhilaration and fatigue. She realized that they were no longer just explorers. They were warriors in their own right, equipped with the knowledge, resilience, and respect needed to navigate the complexities of this harsh yet beautiful world. As night fell and the stars began to twinkle overhead, the warmth of the fire wrapped around them, and Maya felt a deep sense of belonging. They were not just surviving on Glacius, they were thriving, ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead.